750, he's ready to take care of it. He's found somebody. So now,
Well, actually, borrow would probably be the better choice.
so will you take his card and put the money on the account, or should he give this money to
take
Diane?
care of that. That's out of
All
my
right, all
hands.
right. So anyway, Diane needs her information.
It sounds like a design.
You want to just have him contact him and figure out something that's communication.
Well, it's not
Get my phone.
Okay.
That way we can hook up.
Marquise also has my contact. If you want to do that too.
Oh, yeah, we're friends. For Mother's Day, I'm helping to make some, cheesecake in the kitchen. You need to make any, cake for your mother. Come in the kitchen, you're around 11:30 or so. Let me go get my phone real quick.
Your name is Jared?
Yes.
Hey, good to meet you. So Abhinandaji says you're going to take initiation from Radha Swami.
Yeah.
When he comes in a few weeks?
Yeah.
Do you know the exact date?
That I do not know yet.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he said it's Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah, coming up in 2 weeks.
Memorial Day.
It's called the Prabhupada Festival in Los Angeles. It's a huge festival.
Is he coming here, or are you going
Los
there?
Angeles.
Oh, you're going to LA. Do you know when he's coming here?
Oh, no, I don't. He usually comes around Spain.
I talked to him a few weeks ago. He said he was coming down for a few
This
days.
is the beta one, but I think we have another one which we
So he said he's going to come down like for 1 or 2 days, but then he's going to be in LA for the majority of his
Well, that's cool. So you want to come to the Prabhupada Festival?
I don't know if I'm going to be here.
What we usually do is clip.
Oh, you don't want this microphone real
You can do both. Let's do both. And clip the recording onto the
Where do you live?
mic.
La Mesa?
You work at the TV station? Or
different.
graphic design?
Yeah. I'm the art director at the TV station.
Which TV station is it?
We
Channel
need you to
9,
play drums.
KUSI.
Oh, cool.
Otherwise, no, I can. You do your thing, and I'll go with cartels by myself. I don't know.
Yeah,
Wow, so excited.
Yeah.
sweet.
How long have you been inspired for?
About 3 years. So
We need to buy some, we need to get some.
it was interesting. Like I wanted to actually get initiated when I first came.
You gotta have the sizzle
like,
factor.
The very first day. Like I knew that's why I came to the temple and I'd read a whole bunch of stuff before I got here. So.
Yeah, it is.
Like my mindset was already like I'm a spiritual master. I submit to him.
Yeah, unless if I stand
But then,
up.
You know, I had to figure out which one that I wanted to, inspire for. So.
Get it to turn on, all adjusted properly.
And
That's it.
Rod just like kind of spoke to me.
Yeah, let's talk.
I think that's more tear to my ridges.
No, it's nobody's. Gigantors. That's all right, no worries. We'll sort it out.
Oh, Govinda. Is it too cold if we crack that door? Krishna sang of purifiers, I'm the wind. A little fresh air is nice. And it keeps everybody awake. Now, the big moment here. Yeah, we'll get it, we'll get it. Krishna, Krishna. Sounds a bit intimidating. Too loud? Doesn't matter, huh? What do you think?
You have to say something like you're going to speak.
I thought I did.
Touch.
It sounds a bit loud. You will surrender. You're feeling submissive. You're feeling submissive. The devotees used to... Here, come. Thanks. The devotees used to do... Thank you. Prabhupada liked miracles. When he came to Detroit, Shruti Kirti told me, I saw this, but Shruti Kirti Prabhu gave me the backstory, that practically every place Prabhupada went, certainly in the West, they just painted the place. And Prabhupada was a refined gentleman, and that pungent, Prabhupada was prone to headaches sometimes. And we went into Prabhupada's room to paint it, and we thought Prabhupada was out in his garden. He was sitting in his room. This was in LA. And we all came in with the paint buckets and the whole thing, and overalls, and and Prabhupada was sitting right behind his desk. Prabhupada said, "Oh, what is this?" So Karandar, was in charge. And Karandar Prabhu said, "Oh, Prabhupada will come back." Prabhupada says, "What are you doing?" And explained and like that. But Prabhupada had a big gardenia garland wrapped around his head like this. So Karandar asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, why do you have the garland around your neck?" Prabhupada said, "Around your head." Prabhupada said, "Very good for headaches." And Prabhupada was the aromatherapy, long before that became anything, But anyway, the thing in Detroit was that the whole place smelled like paint. And Prabhupada took the marigold, he had a nice big marigold garland. He took the whole thing apart and he put it in all the drawers where his clothes were. Like he put it inside his kurta, like you would do with a cedar, box or something like that. And it made all of his clothes smell very nice, made it smell like marigold. So Prabhupada had his own way of dealing with the, paint smell that followed him wherever he went. I don't know exactly how we got off on that, but that's all right. I'm afraid to touch this mic. It's really jerry
Yeah,
rig.
it's got the wrong mic stand.
Whatever. Seems to be cooperating. Gerardo Marava Kunja Bihari Gerardo Marava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanandari Gopijana Balava Girivanandari Yasura Jasura Nandana Brajaranjana Jamun Tiravanakari Jamuna Tiravanakari Gerardo Marava Kundarihari Gopijana Balava Givanagari Gopijana Balava Jasura Nana Brajaranjana Jamuna Tiravanakari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jai Ram Madhava Kundari Hari. Jai Ram Madhava Kundari Hari. Madhava Kundari Hari. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Padi Vijayacharya Siddhishishim Savandre Savaicharan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON DVT Founder Charge of Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananda Guruveshta Vrinda Ki Nam Charge Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadi Dham Ki Shamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Maharan Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sambhir Bhakti Vidya Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sisi Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki O Premanande All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to divine Guru Sita Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru Sri Sri Gauranga.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Staya Buddhade Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Vanikacharani Nirvasesha Srivari Askachada Satarani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So today we're going to read about Jayananda Prabhu, who, by the arrangement of the Lord, passed away before Srila Prabhupada, and that allowed Prabhupada to certify him as a modern-day saint. I mean, he didn't really, on one hand, he was self-effulgent in his saintly nature, but still, Prabhupada was able to certify. And I think if we have time, we'll read later on Prabhupada's final letters to Jayananda. What I want to read, I have a few personal recollections, and then we have a compilation of Jayananda Leela from put together by Kalakanta Prabhu. It's actually quite sweet. And I wanted to read from Bhagavad Gita. This is from the 2nd chapter, text 54. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk? So it is valuable to see, just like going on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, and to see how Prabhupada saw the material nature, how he dealt with it, how he processed the whole thing. Because, Jesus gives that example of being in the world but not of the world. And Krishna gives the example in Bhagavad Gita of a lotus. Lotuses grow in unclean places. They like stagnant water with mucky water. They like that. But of course, the pad comes there, and then the stem comes up, and then the lotus flower is above it. So this word, Malati Devi told me that she was on a walk with Prabhupada, I think it's New York, but I'm not sure where. And they heard this big so Prabhupada said, what is that? Malati said, oh, it's a truck that comes and picks up all the garbage and throws it in the back of the truck. Prabhupada said, oh, we should put the whole material world in there. You know? So, and yet, on the other hand, for one who knows how to see through the eyes of Shastra, through the eyes of the Acharyas, this world, Krishna is the pure taste and, the original fragrance of the earth. He's the light of the sun and the moon. He's the pure taste in water. We can see, for a devotee, he sees and experiences. Prabhupada was sitting in Los Angeles, in New York. You can go up to Prabhupada's rooms, and it was a cold day. We were all bundled up. Prabhupada was having a darshan in the afternoon. Cold for LA. I think it hit the low 50s, and we were all suffering. So everyone's all rugged up, as they say in Australia. And this, you ever seen how the clouds clear and a shaft of light comes out? And it can just like a spotlight sometimes. Well, the shaft of light came, and it came right through you can see there's kind of a bay window behind, or a large window behind Prabhupada. And it came right like this. It came through it like a square, and it landed right on Srila Prabhupada. We were all in darkness, both figuratively and literally, and Prabhupada was bathed in light. And Prabhupada, who didn't miss a thing, could immediately understand the mood of the... Prabhupada said, yes. Prabhupada said, someday you will feel this light like your lover's embrace. So, it gave us a little flavor of what Prabhupada was experiencing, how he was always in contact with Krishna and feeling. So to see how a saintly person deals with this world and how they rise above it, how they utilize it, it's a very valuable thing. So there it is. And Krishna asked this, Arjuna asked the same thing of Krishna, so that we can understand, because a saintly person, they're seen by their qualities. It's not that they have a long beard or necessarily in saffron, or what does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say? I'm not a householder, I'm not a sannyasi, I'm not a Brahman, I'm not this, and I'm simply the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord who maintains the gopis. So, where to start? Well, to give you a mood before I forget, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me this because he was there. Actually, another Tamal Krishna Maharaj story. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, for those of you who don't know, was one of the heroes of our society. And he could be demanding. They said that he could stop time if he wanted to. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was a, but very, very dear to Prabhupada. And when nothing else could, we're off the track, but when nobody else could do it, Prabhupada would call for Tamal. For getting the land in Mayapur, or for getting the books out of when the communists were blocking the wharfs in Bombay and no one could get the books out for the big pandal. Tamal's the one who went in and came out with the books and got the land and so many things. So, but Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me that he was there when Jayananda Prabhu was getting his Gayatri. And, anyone... It's not uncommon. You see disciples; they go up at initiation. They're so nervous and enlivened about the whole thing. Their minds go blank. They forget the regular principles. You ever seen that? We've all seen that. They just it's off the track, but it's kind of blissful. Who's got their beads with them? Let me show you something. And you look at some tapes. You'll see Prabhupada. Hand it to me. I'll give it back. Don't worry. Okay, pretend you're getting initiation. And then Prabhupada would go, and he'd say, and what are the regular... You see Prabhupada would do it not regularly, but, and what are the regular principles? And then Prabhupada would give beads, Prabhupada's serious about the thing. As we should be. Prabhupada said, only an animal cannot keep his promise at initiation. You take your vows, what can you do? An accident will fall down, that's something else. But... So devotees, in defense of Jayananda, he was nervous and, just, so he got this thread, and anyone who's ever tried to untangle a Brahman thread, if you don't know how to do it, and even you know how to do it, in India, they never do anything the same way. They've always got And you ever have a Brahman thread that gets all tangled up? Anyone who's a Brahman knows. It gets all tangled up and you get enough, So the thread, it was bound up like that. And then Jayananda tried to undo it. And it got completely tangled in just to a ball of string, And then somebody gave it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada undid it, And then he was so nervous by that point, he couldn't remember the mantra, and Prabhupada showing him how to count, and to get the string, and to count, and remember, Prabhupada said, "You're hopeless." Prabhupada, can you imagine? Prabhupada thinking he's got this ball of string, and he's tangled, and he's forgotten how to count, and he can't remember. Prabhupada said, "You're hopeless." And then Prabhupada said, "But you're so sincere, whatever you chant, Krishna will accept." Which is pretty far when you think about it, because it's the Bhav, Bhavagrahi Janardanam. Krishna's in the heart. Krishna, you can't cheat Krishna. You can't pretend to be, Krishna knows exactly what's going on. So Prabhupada said that you're so sincere that whatever you chant, Krishna will accept. So that's Jayananda Prabhu. He was in Detroit, and he was in charge of one of the buses. They had those Radha Damodar buses when men were men and not mamacharis instead of brahmacharis. And, I've got to get in touch with my inner self, and I got to, 2 hours out of Sankirtan, I'm emotionally exhausted. I mean, come on, So he had, I think, 3 or 4 bus vans that were working out of his bus. So you figure whatever that was, 16 men, easily 16 men. And then the bus driver was. So he got everybody out. And there was one young man who later on became Prahlad. Who's our Prahlad Priya? From Philadelphia, right? They used to call him Philly Phil. His name was Philip. And he's a young man, and he's going out, and it's freezing. I mean, Detroit gets cold. I mean, the wind blows right off that Lake Michigan. It gets cold, And so he didn't have a jacket. So Jayananda said, "Oh, I've got a jacket." And he gave him this big down jacket. And he said, "Well, I can't. That's your jacket." He said, No, my mother just sent me a new jacket. I got a much better one. Go ahead, you take that one. So off the devotee went out on Sankirtan. And so I was getting out to Detroit. I was the Sankirtan leader for the Detroit temple. We were getting out, Jayananda and I were working together. He was going to go where, and who was going to do, we got 30 devotees going out. You got to figure it out. So finally, I got my whole crew out. He got his whole crew out. And then we started, he was going to his car. I was going to my car. And I saw all he had on was this little green windbreaker. I said, "Jayananda, well, we can't go out in that." I said, "I thought you said you had another jacket." He said, "No, I just told him that because otherwise he wouldn't have taken the jacket." So this is a king. This is a leader, like a genuine king doesn't eat until everyone else in the city and the kingdom has eaten first. Then they take not that they're having a state dinner with 20 courses and, 2 blocks away, you got some granny cutting her pills in half because she can't get enough money to whether to eat or whether to take her meds. I mean, that's kind of it's shameful. So, where were we? So, that was Jayananda. So I said, wait. And we, Detroit, everybody's got a thick jacket. We rummaged around, we found him a nice big jacket, But he was perfectly willing to go out. As long as the others were okay, he was perfectly willing to go out. So that gives you a little flavor. He was also nobody's fool. He told me this personally. Actually, no, not him. There was a devotee who was in Denver, and he told me this story, that he said he moved into the temple and he had $1,000, and he had, in 20s and 10s and whatever, and it was his life savings, and he gave it to Jayananda to keep. So, one day, especially when you're a young devotee, I mean, 4 to 5 times a day you wonder, should I be here? Am I doing the right thing? And I don't know what, he only got 2 japatis instead of 3 japatis, and some are, the mind spins off, So he said, I'm getting my money, I'm getting out of here. So he'd slept through the morning program, and he went to Jayananda, and he was going to go in and give me my money back, I'm leaving. And Jayananda said, hey, Bhakta, I forget what his name was, hey, come with me, I want to show you something. And they went out onto the bus, and there was beautiful, they had Radha Damodar, beautiful Radha Damodar, and beautiful Radharani, she had a garland on, and it was made out of all the dollar bill notes that he donated. The whole, Jayananda had folded them all up and strung it into a garland. So Radharani was wearing his $1,000. So he said, he couldn't really ask for it back, She's wearing it. And then Jayananda said, what do you want to talk to me about? He said, oh, that's all right. Then he said, if Jayananda, and who knows how Jayananda at that particular morning had that particular motivation, your inspiration to do that. But he said if Jayananda hadn't done that, he would have taken his $1,000 and gone to hell. He said he's a devotee today because Jayananda saved him, Jayananda and Srimati Radharani. So that gives you a flavor. There's another. Lord Shiva smoked marijuana. I think Lalit caught this part of the pastime. But he didn't catch the other part of the pastime. He also drank an ocean of poison. And Prabhupada would give that example, that you can't, Krishna dances with the gopis. Of course, it's, 16,000 and expanded to be with each gopi. And, but Prabhupada said, fine, you want to have some gopi, and then lift Govardhan Hill too, So don't imitate this. But Jayananda was frugal. I remember we went up in 1970 to the San Francisco Ratha Yatra, and they did a lot of the prep work at Berkeley Temple. They didn't have the San Francisco Temple, I forget, on Frederick Street or whatever, it was very small. It was probably as wide, say from these pillars to the maybe out to the end of the donation box, and maybe in my recollection, maybe it was almost as long, but that was it, And you had devotees from LA, everybody west of the Mississippi had come out for the San Francisco Ratha Yatra. So there wasn't. So we were staying over at Berkeley Temple. They were doing a lot of the prep work at the Berkeley Temple, and Jayananda would get donated from Banana King Louis. We'll read about Banana King Louis later on, but Jayananda would get. And remind me to tell you about Mukunda Maharaj. Jayananda would get just truckloads of bananas and fruit and oranges and all this stuff donated. We make it into a giant fruit salad. But I remember he also got the heavy cream donated. And we were, for breakfast, we were having halava and bananas and cream, which was, in those days you could digest a stone. It was great, So he would get things. If he couldn't get it donated, he would get his money's worth out of whatever it was, And one time he would always buy his clothes at the Goodwill store. But this particular time, he actually stole a pair of overalls. Now, that's the point, don't imitate. And the store manager, they caught him on the camera, and their policy was they called the police. And the police and the store manager began to talk to Jayananda. They could understand, he explained, what his motivation was and what he was doing, and he was so sorry, and how this reflected badly on his spiritual master, and, his spiritual master would never do anything like this, and, how he was a fallen disciple and very embarrassed. They were so moved that the store detective paid for the clothes. The cops dropped they said, no, and we'll give you a ride back to your temple. And the store detective paid for the clothes. So that gives you a flavor of Jayananda. And then Mukunda Maharaj told me this one. that Jayananda organized. I think he left his body before the first LA Ratha Yatra.
Yes.
Yeah. But he was the driving force. And Gopal Bhatta, he'll tell you, Gopal Bhatta was the temple president, Ramaswamy is the GBC, they'll all tell you that they said, no, we don't have time, we'll do it next year. And then, but Jayananda was the driving force behind the LA, that wonderful LA Ratha Yatra. Nothing compares. I mean, the devotees under Swavasa's direction have refined and expanded and improved. But the driving force was Jayananda, and getting it started. And what was I going to... Oh, so he also got all the permits. He did everything, you know. So Mukunda Maharaj was the second year, was the one who went to get the permits for the park. And there's always been a pastime, different park managers, and some other table will just do a class on the park managers. So this particular park manager was a big black lady, and she was, what is it, brusque? You know, she was, you know, not rough in her manner, you know. And Mukunda Maharaj came in and you know, asked for the permit and said, you know, do you have this and do you have that, and you've come late, and I'm leaving, and come back tomorrow, and she's giving him a hard time. And then she finally got around. She said, and where is that Johnny Ananda anyway? That's what she called Jayananda. Why are you here? Why are you? Johnny Ananda's the one who comes for the permit. Why are you here? And you know, Mukunda Maharaj, anyone who knows Mukunda is just silver-tongued, sweet. I mean, he's also in his own category. This is the Michael Grant when you read Prabhupada's Leela. So he explained that he passed away from leukemia. And this big, rough lady started to cry. Just completely, just all the rough facade. Can we shut those because the sun is shining? All this rough exterior, and thank you for Radha Priya for these curtains, just went away. She said, oh, he was the nicest man I ever met, and, you know, okay, give me those papers. She signed them immediately, you know. But she was deeply, just by meeting him several times, she just couldn't, she said, I've never met anyone like that, so many different things. Oh, before I forget, because he had leukemia, and the Western, his family had sent him $5,000 to take care of his health. He took the money and sent it to Prabhupada, and it was not for his first donation was, I think, $5,000 to print the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And at the fag end of his life was another $5,000, and he sent it to the BBT. Prabhupada sent it back. Prabhupada said, no, you take care of your health. Prabhupada sent the money back. But none of the Western stuff worked. You know, he wanted to try to maintain his body. He wasn't attached to it, but he wanted to keep it for serving Krishna. So finally he went down to Tijuana. And I had just come at that time. And so Gunagraj Maharaj sent me down there with some prasadam for him. And you know, they have those clinics, those, you know, whatever. I forget which one it was. And Gunagraj Maharaj said, you know, don't, you know, you'll be shocked when you see him. You'll be shocked. Just try to, you know, don't. Because he was thin as he just looked like, he was thin as a rail and pale and just unbelievable. So I went to his room and nobody was there. I thought, oh gosh, you know, we've blown it, or he's gone into surgery, we've missed him or something like that, you know. And then I saw in the window, you know, there's a glass panel that you can see in the room. There was a little note, handwritten note, Bhagavad Gita classes, 10 a.m. And sure enough, it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And I looked, and out in the solarium, you know, they have a solarium, and all these guys and ladies in wheelchairs and crutches, and you know, wheeled out on gurneys. And he was there in a wheelchair himself, giving Bhagavad Gita class. Must have had 15 people in rapt attention, and there he was giving. I couldn't believe it, you know. And so it just gives you a flavor of Jayananda. But I think. Oh, I don't want to forget this one because I'm looking at the time factor. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me this. that he had a very economic relationship with Prabhupada. He was not, he was the temple president of the San Francisco temple for years, and then, the other young guys had come along, and because he was older, he was probably in his mid-30s, so he was, a grand old man in ISKCON, but he would drive a taxi, and he would give his whole fare. I mean, he graduated from San Jose State with a teaching credential. He came from the Midwest. I mean, he was. You can see the pictures in New York or in San Francisco. He'd be like the only guy awake in Bhagavatam class, and he'd be there in a suit and tie because he was going to work. I mean, he was a straight arrow. I don't know if he ever took drugs. He wasn't into any of that stuff. He was like Ohio. He was from Ohio. He was a straight arrow. And, probably the only sane guy in the group at the time, And Prabhupada was very, very fond of him. He used to drive Prabhupada. So, after the New York Ratha Yatra, and in the middle of the night, the cart blew down, and just so many things happened. Trump is the one who gave permission because they needed to get an area to build the big. They're like LA size. They were big carts. So I think it was the New York Railway Yard.
It was an unused subway area or something.
Yeah, they'd sold it to Trump. Toshan went to get the permit from the New York City Railroad or whatever it was. And they said, no, we just sold it, and it's gone to this developer, Donald Trump. And they said, oh man, we'll never get it from him. But Tosha, devotees in those days, give it a shot. Made an application, here's what we need it for. And he's got a call from an executive secretary. Yeah, he's given his permission, signed the papers. We're at some kind of function at the, Tavern on the Green, when there's a fancy restaurant in Central Park. Come on down, and he'll sign the papers there, and you can pick him up. And sure enough, so even Donald, maybe that's why he's president. He did something for Lord Jagannath. Who knows? Who can figure it out? But the point is, in the middle of the night, some gust of wind caught the canopy and tweaked Balaram's car. Jai Sundar would tell you. It was like a whole thing, and Jayananda organized a crew. He was already there, stayed up all night long. We'll get back to the Tamal Krishna story. 1970, again, we went up to, summertime, I think in the month of June or July, I forget when the Rath Yatra was. We went up to we're staying in Berkeley. Everybody's getting assignments, what to do. And Karuna Sindhu was my friend, and it still is. So Karuna Sindhu Prabhu said, get on Jayananda, get on Jayananda. He was a household, he had to take care of his wife and kids. He said, get on Jayananda's group. I said, why? He said, that's how I met Jayananda. He said, you'll get a great prasadam. And okay, my hand went up, and he worked as hard. I mean, like I say, I was 18 by that time, 17 and a half, whatever I was, and he was, 35 years old. He worked us all into the ground. I mean, we were exhausted, but on this little, he had those army stoves, those green Coleman camp stoves. And he cooked, we had chili with nice curd in it, chunks of curd and chili and tomatoes. We had cornbread, and we had peanut butter halva, for a crew of hungry, 15 hungry men. And he fed us, and army runs on his stomach. Guru Kripa said he came down to beat up the devotees. You have to know Guru Kripa to appreciate. Anyone knows Guru Kripa? He was a tough guy to love. Hare Krishna. He was a tough guy. I mean, however, anyway, that's a whole other subject, Guru Kripa. But he raised the team that raised the money to build the Krishna Balaram temple. Prabhupada said put a plaque, and you can see the plaque right there. So, that's eternal benefit. But he read about these guys in skirts, these guys, and he saw there was a picture in the San Francisco Chronicle, these guys in pink or orange skirts, and like Bonasur, on one hand, he wanted to fight. He wanted to fight a worthy adversary. So he read about these guys in skirts, making this card. He thought, fantastic, I'm going to beat up about 10 of them, And he literally woke up in the morning, enlivened, and set out for where the temple was. And they had the address where they were building the cart. He went there to pick a fight and beat up the devotees. And Jayananda was a big guy. Jayananda was, solidly built, like Bhavananda. Prabhupada said, oh, you look like Lord Chaitanya. He was tall, nice shoulders, like lion's shoulders, and strongly built, and very handsome. And, peaches and cream complexion. He was just a great-looking guy. So there's Jayananda. Here comes Guru Kripa, ready to pick a fight. Jayananda said to him, Guru Kripa told me this personally. Jayananda said to him, hey, you look big and strong. Can you help for a minute? He never helped anybody in his life. But Jayananda was so enthusiastic and yet commanding that he just turned around and they were trying to get something off, a refrigerator off a truck. And, he was right in there with the devotees. And he said, next thing he knew, it was 1 o'clock and they were stuffing him full of prasadam. He had more fun. Guru Kripa said, I had more fun in that one day than that's how he became a devotee. Jayananda just spun him around, engaged him in devotional service. Karandar told me, L.A. Karandar, one of the heroes in those days, and very kind to me. Karandar said that he showed up at the temple and Jayananda said, hey, can you help me for a minute? Jayananda's famous mantra. And Karandar was a serious student of Buddhism. And he was, if you knew him, he wasn't cold, but he was, what is the word? Calcitrant, that he didn't speak a whole lot. And he took a while to warm up that guy. Jayananda spun him around and said, hey, can you help me? And they were taking out the garbage. And Karandar's conclusion was, if the garbage man is this blissful, imagine how the rest of the devotees are. That convinced him to become a devotee, just associating with Jayananda. Jayananda used to sell incense to help support the temple. We had our spiritual sky. Krishna makes the best scents. Like smell, aroma, scent, but it was a play on it. They had Vishnu, remember that? They had Vishnu on the cover and they said, Krishna makes the best sense. It's a great motto. So, and he used to travel, and because he was frugal, he would always find someone to stay, some shop guy at the incense, head shop that he was there, some or other. And there's a string of devotees. There's about 15 to 20 devotees that he made. All because they met him and he stayed at their house. And he would go in and they'd have all their dogs and nonsense and bong pipes, and he'd just clear off a shelf, put up an altar, cook some nice prasadam, get him going with a kirtan. People would look forward for him to stay with them, and they became devotees. He was just a very powerful person. So back to I guess we'll have to read this song. We haven't started reading the thing. But just to finish the Tamal Krishna Maharaj story, because it gives you a flavor of his relationship and his nature. So, the whole, pushed the whole thing, designed the carts, built them, organized the prasadam distribution, everything, the first New York Ratha Yatra. And you have to understand, Prabhupada said he was wandering practically as a beggar in New York City. He didn't even have a roof over his house, practically speaking. Then, again, Prabhupada's vision. Prabhupada's staying at the Bowery, and there were drunks, with their pants on backwards and their own urine and their own vomit lying on the steps. And Prabhupada had to climb up the steps. Prabhupada said, but they would say, oh, here comes Swamiji, and roll out of the way. They would make a path. Prabhupada said, this is where they were offering their respects. Like reverse Dandavats or something. They would roll out of the way and make a path for Srila Prabhupada to go up this. So Prabhupada was, taking the bus here and there. He was going regularly down to the Scindia steam lines and look at when the next ship went back to India. And they interviewed that guy, Mr. Fisher, who was the clerk. And Mr. Fisher said that he's the one who said, Prabhupada said, I am not a poor man.